Hello and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Ned. I am a technical evangelist here at Caspio, and today we're going to look at how quickly we can transform data into action by building dynamic charts and dashboards using Caspio. Let's have a brief look at the agenda for today's webinar. Initially, we'll spend a few minutes talking about Caspio just to give you a quick background on the company. Then we'll take a look at some live examples of charts that I have prepared for today's webinar. After that, we're going to learn how to quickly and easily import Excel data into Caspio and how by using Caspio's point and click tools, we can take this imported data and create dynamic charts and other application interfaces. At the end, I will be showing you how to publish or deploy these charts to the web so that the other users in your organization will be able to access the information as well. And lastly, we'll save about 10 or 15 minutes at the end of the webinar to answer any questions you might have. So feel free to submit your questions using the chat window, and our team or myself will get to them either throughout the webinar or at the very end. So now the million-dollar question is, what is Caspio? For those of you who have never heard of Caspio before, it is a low-code development platform. Caspio as a company was founded in year 2000, and it was founded with one simple goal in mind, and that is to help non-technical users accomplish technical things. Using the visual application builder and point and click interface, which you'll see later today, business users who aren't as technically adept can build feature-rich applications in minutes, hours, no more than a few days. Today, Caspio has over 1 million applications published and customers in over 100 countries. It really goes to show that business users are becoming a little bit more adept. They're getting a bit more of a technical acumen to be able to build these web applications and not always have to constantly rely on their IT teams for help. Now, I often get asked this question, what can you build with Caspio? And it's really hard to put a limit on the type of applications that you can develop because it truly is an enterprise level platform that allows you to develop applications for many different types of industries. So for example, if you're in healthcare, you can build patient intake forms and manage patients using reports. If you're in the education sector, for example, you can build online curriculums, maybe even track student attendance. So the Caspio platform is very versatile, and building these applications, whether they're for public-facing use or internal needs, can be done very, very quickly using Caspio's point-and-click tools. So who uses Caspio? Well, we have customers ranging from Fortune 500 companies all the way down to smaller mom and pop shops. The platform itself is flexible enough to fit the need for many businesses of many sizes. One of the things that I would like for you to remember as today's webinar comes to an end, you'll have a lot of helpful resources to guide you along the way to develop your very first Caspio application. The first step is to set up a 14-day trial, which watch some of our step-by-step video tutorials on how to begin. And if you're encountering any obstacles along the way, then set up a free project consultation. Give us a call and talk to one of our team members to see if your next project is going to be a good fit for your project. So the second thing that we have on our agenda for today for the webinar is to take a look at some live examples that I have prepared. But before I actually show you those live examples, let's take a look at the data set that we'll be looking at and working with today. So a lot of you are probably familiar with this flat file that we're looking at. This spreadsheet in Excel contains a list of orders, and I have almost 10,000 entries inside this spreadsheet. And if you look at the column fields, you may be able to relate to some of these. For example, we have the customer name in this column. I also have the city, state, different regions, and if we scroll to the right, we'll be able to see the sales figures per region, per customer, per state. And just by looking at this Excel file, I can see my data, but it's really hard to analyze patterns, highs and lows, dips and highs, to be able to see what the data is telling us. And that's the benefit of building charts. All right, so let's take a look at a few live examples that utilize this data set. So I'm going to show you a couple of different charts that you can build in Caspio. The first one that I'm going to show you is bar charts. Here are 4 examples of bar charts that you can build in Caspio, and the very first one is showing us total sales by region. So if we were to take this entire data set and break down all the sales based on region, you will notice that this bar chart is showing me the total sales for West, East, Central, and South. I can also break down my bar chart, make it stacked, so I can see total category revenue. And what's nice about the Caspio charts is you can dynamically show and hide elements if you click on the legend. So if I click on office supplies, if I only want to key in on technology and furniture, I can just focus in on those two segments. Let's take a look at some area charts. Area charts are also very helpful and useful to analyze data and see different patterns. So here we can break it down based on month to see the revenue. So if I just want to focus on West, for example, I can see the monthly breakdown of revenue per month. Let's take a look at some pie charts. Pie charts are also very helpful. In Caspio, you can also create 3D charts. You can also do donut charts. So here's an example of a pie chart that shows you the total quantity ordered of each one of these categories. So if I look at my Excel file really quickly, here is my quantity column, and all I'm doing here is adding all of those quantities per category. And then we also have an example of a donut chart that shows me regional sales and category here, so I can see total revenue per region. Another type of charts that you can build in Caspio are line charts. Line charts are also very helpful to see patterns. So here, for example, if you look at this chart down below, we can see year-over-year revenue, and it has a nice hockey stick effect. So as the owner of this company, I don't really have too much to worry about because I can see that the revenue is increasing year-over-year. So far, we've been looking at charts. I also want you to know that inside Caspio, you can do a lot more than just charts. You can build submission forms, you can build login screens to password protect sensitive data if you only want specific users to look at the data. In this example, we're looking at a report that allows the end users to filter data based on some fields, and based on the input, the chart will change, and we're also looking at the results underneath of all of that data that was once in Excel, but now it's in an online database and we can view that data online. So let's just see what happens if I just want to be able to see revenue for 2017. I can change my year, and maybe let's start with January 1st. Click on submit and watch what happens to my chart. Now I'm just looking at data for year 2017, and my results underneath are filtering data just for 2017. So if you build these reports, you can dynamically show and hide elements. You can also filter data just based on the information that we want to see. So now, as next part of our agenda for today's session is let's learn how to import this Excel file into Caspio. And then later on, I'm going to show you how quickly you can build these charts to display the data. So here I am logged inside my Caspio account. The first time you log into your Caspio account, you're always going to be taken to the home page. And to begin building your first application, all you need to do is click on this link. And then you have two options on how you can begin. Now, in this setup, I'm going to import data from Excel, but you can just as easily begin building your application from scratch. There is no right or wrong way to begin. So let's import the data. First, we're going to give our application a name. You're going to have your own naming convention. It just depends on the problem that you're trying to solve. So if you're looking to manage inventory, you can call your application inventory management. If it's something pertaining to real estate, you might call it real estate application. I'm going to call mine company dashboard. And then I'm going to attach that Excel file that I have on my desktop. I called it orders. And let's quickly navigate through the import wizard. I'm not going to spend too much time on importing data. It's pretty self-explanatory, and we have other videos that teach you how to import data, but let's quickly do this. We're going to hit next. We're going to hit next one more time. And on this screen, you're going to see the table that you're importing. We're going to go ahead and import that table for the very first time. So I'm going to create a new table inside Caspio, and I'm going to call this TBL orders. Now, what exactly is a table? Table in a database stores all of your entries. Excel, we call it spreadsheet that contains all of the data. But in a database environment, that data will be stored inside what's called a table. So now on the second screen, you get to see your sample data that you're importing. You can verify all of your field names. You also have the ability here to include or exclude if you don't want a specific column to be imported. And then when you're done, just click on import. And it's going to show you a loading screen. It just depends on how many entries you're actually importing into the database. At any time, you can actually close this screen. And when you close that screen, once again, we're back on the home page where we see the list of our applications. And here's the application that we started developing. The import is still happening behind the scenes, so feel free to close that screen at any point. Now, to begin building our charts, we need to open up the application, and then you're going to notice these objects on the left-hand side. Okay, and the very first object that's highlighted by default is the Overview tab. This screen is mostly informational for you to keep track of your progress as you're building your applications. But the most important object here is the Tables object. So when you click here, you're going to find that table that we just created, table of orders. And if I open the table, we're going to be able to see all of that data. Now the difference is this Excel file is offline. And if I want to share this data with somebody, I have to send an email. And if I want somebody to update something, I have to wait for an email to come back. So a lot of you who have worked with Excel files, you understand the pain of having to have one person compile all these updates to update one master spreadsheet. Well, the beauty of having an online database and having this data online is that you can create one place on the web where people can log in simultaneously and be able to input data, make updates, and then you can stamp to see when something was updated. You can also trigger email notifications. So that is a huge benefit of having an online database and working with data on the web. So now that I have this data inside Caspio, watch how quickly I can build a chart. To build a chart, we're going to go to this object called Data Pages. And to build a chart or any data page, we click on this link here for New Data Page. And this is going to launch Caspio's point-and-click data page wizard. There are many tools out there that have a drag and drop interface. Caspio uses what's called point and click. So you select your options, you click next until the finish button becomes available for you to save your changes. And here are all the different types of things that you can build in Caspio. So if you need to build an input form, you can build a submission form. You can build reports. You can build calendars. And what we're going to focus in today's webinar is the charts. Now, charts are my personal favorite because with charts, we can build dashboards and analytics and be able to see trends and patterns. So if I scroll down here, you're going to be able to see all the different charts that you can create using Caspio's point and click tools. The first chart that I'm going to create for us today is a very simple line chart. I would like to be able to see the revenue from that orders table year over year. So I'm going to select this type, click next, and then using the data source, this is how you link the table to your chart. So this table contains all of those 10,000 entries. Let's call this very simple, maybe line chart. You can apply a different style. This is for the aesthetics to change the color of your chart, or maybe the labels on the form or fields. You can also change the localization. This is for regional settings. So if you wanted to change the language of your labels to something else, you can apply a different localization. Next, on this screen, do we need to have a search form? In this case, for this first chart that I'm creating, I don't want to have a search interface. We're going to build that later on. For now, we're just going to filter the chart based on predefined criteria. On the next screen, here you can include any specific fields that you want to filter your data on, but we're going to skip this step and go directly to configure properties of our chart. So you're going to see these elements on the left-hand side, and once you configure these elements, you're going to be able to see that line chart. The first element here, you can maybe add a title of your chart, so we can say maybe year over year revenue. Under data source settings, you have two options. You can either create a series from a data in a single field, so one column, or you can plot using separate fields for each series. Now in this example, I'm going to use the second radio button and go down to my x-axis. Now what information do I want to plot on the x-axis? where there I'm going to want to show years. So 2014, 2015, 16, and so forth. So I'm going to select my order date field, and we can group this based on a date rollup. And I'm going to select year, even though I could, if I wanted to see month over month, I can select this option. And I'm just going to put my title here as year. For my y-axis, so when the line is graphed, I want to be able to show revenue. So we're going to call this total sales. And I want to format this by selecting custom, and I want to show this as currency. So we can see the dollar symbol as we plot the data. And finally, under value, here, what are you trying to compute? So we are trying to compute the sales field because the sales column contains all those sales figures. So we're going to select that. We're going to use sum for aggregation. And we can also apply a very simple marker here, maybe diamond shape. Now, before you save your changes, you can click on preview to see what this looks like. And as you can see, it's a very basic line chart that shows me year-over-year revenue. And within just less than a minute, I was able to build this chart that takes all of those 10,000 entries from the Excel file that we imported, and very quickly I was able to build this chart. And if you're happy with the look, you can now save your changes by clicking on Finish. And let's say that you wanted to share this chart with somebody in your organization, maybe even do an email blast to all of the internal employees or stakeholders. Right next to Preview, we have what's called Deploy. You click on that link, you enable access, and then Caspio is going to give you 6 different deployment methods. This is by far the most popular method, the embed model. All you need to do is copy this code, paste this code into your web page, publish your web page, and you're going to see that chart seamlessly embed. Okay, now, for those of you who've never built a website before, building a website is very easy nowadays. You don't have to be a developer to build a web page. There are plenty of tools out there, starting with WordPress, Yola, Weebly, Squarespace, and even if you know how to code in HTML, you can quickly just paste this code. It's plug and play. It's just like embedding a YouTube video or a Facebook like button. Same concept. Copy, paste, embed. In our webinar today, I have a very simple web page created for us, so I want to show you that effect and the behavior that you get once you deploy the code. So here's my web page, and here's my HTML file for that web page. Now, personally, I work directly inside the code. That is my background, front-end development. So once you find that placeholder where you want that chart to appear, you simply just paste the code, save and publish your web page, and as soon as you refresh the website, you're going to be able to see that chart. It really, really is that simple. I didn't use a single line of code. All I did was import my file, and within just a couple of clicks, I was able to build this chart. So now if I were to share this URL with each of you in today's webinar, and you click on this link, you will be able to see that chart. Now let me show you a different type of chart that you can build in Caspio. Still going to use the same line chart, but we're going to plot many different series. Okay, so let's go back to our account, close this screen, and instead of me recreating this data page from scratch, I can actually make a copy of this one, more, and hit duplicate. And let's just call this regions and hit save. So it's still the same exact chart, showing the same line graph year over year. I'm going to go ahead and edit this chart and just show you with just a couple of modifications how you can have a completely different kind of effect. So again, we're going to use a line chart. We're going to hit next, and let's navigate all the way to the configuration screen. Under source settings, I'm going to select this radio button, and now on the series, I would like to plot different regions. Now in my flat file, in my Excel document, we have 4 different regions: Central, South, East, and West. Even before I click Finish, if I just want to see what this looks like with this minor modification, if I click Preview now, all right, so it's not one line chart or one line graph, it's now 4, and it's plotting different series, so different regions on this chart. And I can dynamically show and hide. If I just want to focus in on South, I can see that we had a dip in 2015, but after that, revenue spiked up. Okay, so if you like the way this chart looks, just go ahead and click Finish, and let's go ahead and deploy this chart as well. So we'll save our changes, click on the deploy link, enable access, and grab the second deploy code, go back to my web page, and let's just paste that underneath the first deploy code like this, save our changes. Let's come back here, refresh. And now we have two charts on a single web page. So this is what we mean by dashboards. Okay, you can actually put these two charts side by side if you want to, and then you can see results underneath if you need to actually display the data, not just in a visual format using charts, but you can also have the data displayed in a different format too, or different layout. So it can be a tabular layout, or it can be grid, or it can be list. We do give you many different layouts on how you want the data to be displayed on a report. Now for my second or third example or third data page that I'm going to build in today's webinar, I'd like to show you how you can create a search interface, click search to be able to see the chart and results underneath the chart. Now we have a specific data page type for this. I'm going to click on new, and let's build this data page from scratch. So once again, this is going to launch Caspio's point and click wizard, and under reports, even though I could go directly to a chart if I just need to build my chart, but under reports, we have a data page that's a combination of a chart and results. And if you look at the illustration below, this is basically what we're going to build. The ability to search, view the results, and drill into details. It's a three-step process. So let's hit next. My data source, once again, it's the orders table because I only have one table here, and I'm trying to output the data from that table. Let's call this very simple report. Hit next. And as I said, let's build a search interface. So we're going to select the first radio button and click next. And now the wizard is asking me, what fields do you wish to use in the search form? Well, let's just have, for example, region, and let's have order date. Now, just for the interest of time, I'm using two fields, but you can include as many fields as you want on that search form. It's completely up to you. We're going to hit next once again, and now for my region, if I want this to become some kind of a nice drop-down, under form element, I have an option for drop-down. Okay, and I'm going to use both custom values and lookup table. The reason why I want to select both here is because under custom values, I want to be able to search all regions. All right, and I'm going to delete the value because this doesn't exist in the table. And then the lookup table automatically selects your order table, and it points directly to that region column. So it's going to pull those regions in the dropdown. Now for my order date, I'd like to create some kind of a dynamic date range. Show me all the figures from this date to that date. And to do that, we're going to insert using this button what we call new criteria. And you're going to see two options underneath that main field. Make sure that the operator is set to and because we want this criteria and this criteria. The first one is going to be greater than or equal to. And the second one, you guessed it, is going to be less than or equal to. This is how in Caspio you do a date range. Let's hit next. Now, what fields do you want to use in the results page? All right, so let's have a couple of fields here. Let's have order date. How about customer name? Maybe category and subcategory, product name, and we'll also include the sales column as well. Hit next. Here we have the ability to edit data on the results page. All right, so if you want the end users on the website to be able to edit information, let's give them the ability for inline edit, for example. Be careful with the precaution message because you don't want just anyone to be able to edit your data. Click OK, hit next. These are my results page fields. I'm not going to make any changes to my results page fields. I'm going to keep this the way it is and just continue. Let's go ahead and show, instead of 25, which is the default number, let's show 25 or 50 orders per page and hit next. Now, because this is a combination chart and results, let's build a chart. And this time, why don't we actually build something different? Let's go perhaps with a stacked area chart, just for fun. We're going to hit next. And once again, we get to that very similar screen that we looked at before where you configure the chart settings. Okay, and I'm going to display my data pretty much the same way as before, but this time let's group it based on month instead of year. Okay, so we're going to have month over month revenue. And here we're actually going to use the very first radio button because I want to plot my regions. My x-axis will once again be my order date, and this time we're going to do a date roll-up based on month, and we're going to give this a title of month. For my series, once again, let's have region, but we could actually show category as well. So let's have something different. Let's do a category of all the products that we're selling. For my y-axis, I'll do my revenue, so total sales, and I will format this once again as currency. And for my value, again, we're trying to do the sales sum. Hit next. We're going to plot 1,000 data points onto a chart. Let's hit next one more time. And this way, here you can actually enable the details view if you'd like. Just to save on time, let's go ahead and disable the details page, and immediately you'll see how you can preview or you can save your changes. Personally, I always like to preview first, so let's take a look at the search interface. We created this nice drop-down effect. We have our two date range fields. When I click search, now you can see that I'm plotting my category. I only have 3 categories: technology, office supplies, and furniture, month over month for the past 3 years. And I'm looking at my data underneath my chart. Personally, I love the way this looks. I'm ready to publish this on my website. I will close the preview screen. I will save my changes. And once again, we're going to hit deploy just like before. Enable access, grab my deploy code, go to my web page called search, and I'm going to paste my Caspio code. Publish, refresh, and there's my search interface. Okay, so hopefully you're seeing how easy it is to do this in Caspio. You don't have to be a developer. This is all point and click. I didn't use a single line of code. Right? As soon as you learn how to navigate the data page wizard and all those screens by clicking on next, you can build some really fancy and robust reports and forms and calendars and charts. And by the end of it, you're going to have a nice workflow application where you might even have people logging in. So before you even see the search interface, an end user is required to log in using an email and password combination, his credentials. And upon logging in, only then do I see this search interface. And now when I click search, I can view company data. If I want to focus just on this segment, I can dynamically hide the other two, and just to see, revenue in technology in the month of November is 2017. If we compare that with 2016, you can see we had less revenue. So as the owner of the company, now I'm really curious to know, how come we had this spike in revenue this year compared to last year, and what did we do differently, maybe from the marketing perspective or sales perspective, to have gained so much more revenue this month. Okay, so that's kind of the idea behind that. Let's go ahead and enable both of these. And just like before, if you wanted to filter out just for a specific year, a specific region, let's just say central only. Now you're seeing this stacked area chart that's just showing you for that specific region, which is central. Okay, let's search one more time. And I'd like to show you how if I just make one edit here, let's just say for bookcases, if we do an edit, and if I just make a drastic change to my data, let's say this becomes 1 million, and hit update, watch what's going to happen to my chart in just a moment. You see that spike? 27,000, well, actually, no. 1,031,521. So when you edit data on these reports, it automatically is going to affect the chart too. Okay, as soon as you hit update. So let's revert back to our old number because that's a very misleading number in my data set. So let's hit update, and there you have it. All right, so really that's all the stuff that we wanted to show you in today's webinar. That's all the time that we had for today's webinar. What I'd like to do now is just point one thing out before I start answering your questions. And if you do have questions now, feel free to submit them in the chat window. Just give me a moment to get to them and answering them. But I want to point out that if you want to learn how to use the Caspio platform, we offer weekly training sessions that are completely free. Okay, we're going to teach you how to use the platforms from start to finish so you can build your own applications. And I'm actually the one who hosts these training sessions. So if you are able to attend some of these free sessions, just say hi to me. Let me know that you attended the webinar. Always nice to see people coming back and attending my training sessions. I'm going to teach you the basic concepts, intermediate, and advanced. Some of the things that you can learn in this section or this class is all about password protection, user tables, and the advanced session is all about relationships, one-to-many, many-to-many. So there are a lot of concepts behind Caspio, and I really enjoy hosting these training sessions, and I hope to see you there as well. Now, what I'd like to do is open up the line for questions. So if you have any questions for me, I'm more than happy to take them for you. Again, if you do sign off, thank you so much for attending the webinar. I hope that you enjoyed it.